And good morning once again, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to another Living Hope Today study. Today we find ourselves in 1 Samuel chapter 2. Now you remember, throughout the book of Judges, we've seen that Israel has basically been on the path of corruption. The priesthood is corrupt. The morality of the people is corrupt. Their pagan idolatry just flourishes. Everybody's doing what is right in their own eyes. Well, as the book of 1 Samuel begins, we see the birth of Samuel. God is going to intervene in this trend that his people are trapped in, and he's going to rectify it. And one of the ways God will move is to eliminate this apostate priesthood. He's going to judge them, and that's what we'll see today. When you get to 1 Samuel 2:12, you read this: Eli's sons were wicked men. They had no regard for the Lord. Now you got to remember something here. Eli's a priest. Why is he a priest? Because he went to seminary and he's dedicated his life to God and he understands the principles of God's kingdom. He wants to serve God in humility. Is that why he's priest? No. He's priest because he's a descendant of Levi, of Aaron. Okay? He's part of the Levitical tribe. Why are his sons priests? They were born into it. They don't have any buy-in necessarily in terms of serving God. They're like the kid that, their parents drug them to church their whole life. And they know what to say, and they know how to act, and they know what to do to survive. But guess what? There's nothing in the heart that declares any allegiance to Jesus Christ or to following God. That's what we're being told about the priest's sons. They were wicked men. They had no regard for the Lord. Now, it was the practice of the priest with the people that whenever anyone would offer a sacrifice, and while the meat was being boiled, the servant of the priest would come with a three-pronged fork in his hand. What we're going to see here is there's a violation in priestly protocol. He would plunge it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot, and the priest would take for himself whatever the fork brought up. And this is how they treated all the Israelites who came to Shiloh. We're coming to Shiloh because that's where God says he wants his tabernacle to be set up and where he wants to be worshipped. We're going to the priest. We're going through all the things that God has told us to do. But the priest, instead of following the protocol of burning the fat and offering the offering in a way that God has prescribed, the priest is greedy. He's going to take the people's meat without offering it properly for his own benefit. But even before the fat was burned, the servant of the priest would come and say to the man who was sacrificing, "Give the priest some meat to roast. He won't accept boiled meat from you, but only raw." Wow, really? If the man said to him, "Let the fat be burned up first and then take whatever you want," which would be protocol, the servant would then answer, "No, hand it over now. If you don't, I'll take it by force." Wow, that's quite a priest, isn't it? This sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they were treating the Lord's offering with contempt. Notice that now God interjects. Hey, I am paying attention. I don't like it. You remember when Hannah prayed earlier in chapter 2? Do not keep talking so proudly or let your mouth speak such arrogance, for the Lord is a God who knows, and by him deeds are weighed. This priesthood has been weighed by God. He knows their deeds. He's going to do something about their corruption. Contrast that with verse 18. But Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod, even from his childhood. Samuel is dressed in the garments of the priesthood, and he's faithfully carrying out the duties of a priest. That's contrasted with these sons of Eli. But we're told first, each year his mother made him a little robe and took it to him when she went up with her sacrifice to offer the annual sacrifice, with her husband, to offer the annual sacrifice. You just see that Hannah's still in the picture, Hannah's still giving Samuel her full support, making little robes for him so he can serve. But understand, she's offered him to the Lord. He belongs to the Lord for life. He's faithfully serving. He's wearing the linen ephod. He's doing exactly what pleases God. Wow. Back to the bad scenario. Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May the Lord give you children by this woman to take the place of the one she prayed for and gave to the Lord." And then they'd go home, and the Lord was gracious to Hannah. He conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. So Eli blesses them. Hannah is fertile. She's having kids now, where Peninnah had been ridiculing her for so long about why she couldn't have kids. Now Hannah's having children. Samuel has siblings. Okay, so at least we're showing that Eli has a heart. He knows that Hannah gave her son to the Lord. He knows that Samuel's a blessing from God. He wants Hannah to have more children. That's good. But now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel. So now Eli is accountable because he knows. He knows what's happening through his sons in the temple. All right? The question's going to be, Eli, what are you going to do about it? Well, let's see what it says. He heard about everything they were doing, how they slept with the women who served at the entrance to the tent of the meeting. So he said to them, "Oh, well, this sounds good. Maybe a little confrontation. Why do you do such things? I hear from all the people about these wicked deeds of yours." So there's some confrontation here. "No, my sons, it is not a good report that I hear spreading among the Lord's people." All right, he's talking to his sons about their evil behavior. If a man sins against another man, God may mediate for him. But if a man sins against the Lord, who's going to intercede for him? His sons, however, did not listen to their father's rebuke. For, look at this line, "For it was the Lord's will to put them to death." Wow. So God has already accounted for this evil in his own thinking, and he knows that he's going to eliminate these guys. Why? Because these guys will not change. Eli has rebuked them, but Eli hasn't removed them. He hasn't done anything to actually alter their course. Okay, and the boy Samuel, back to the good contrast, he continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with men. That reminds me of that verse in Luke where Jesus is growing in stature as he's raised up to be the one who has come to die for us. Okay, we see a similar idea here in Samuel. He's in favor of the Lord. Well, now a man of God. Oh, this is interesting, isn't it? Now a man of God came to Eli. Who is that? We're not told. But what that tells us is there are authentic followers of God who are obeying him, listening to him, being led by his Spirit in the Old Testament that are never named. There are people that are faithful. Okay, so here comes a guy who is identified as a man of God. He comes to Eli, and what does he say? This is what the Lord says. "I'm going to tell you what God wants you to hear." Okay? "Did I not clearly reveal myself to your father's house when they were in Egypt under Pharaoh? I chose your father out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to go up to my altar, to burn incense, and to wear an ephod in my presence. I also gave your father's house all the offerings made with fire by the Israelites." Hey, Eli, your heritage is to serve me well, and that's where it all started. 29, "Why do you scorn my sacrifice and offering that I prescribed for my dwelling? Why do you honor your sons more than me by fattening yourselves on the choice parts of every offering made by my people Israel? Why do you scorn my sacrifice and offering?" Do you understand? God takes this personally. You were set up correctly. You understood what to do. You've gone the wrong way. Do you think I'm not going to respond? I mean, God's sitting there thinking, you think I'm just going to let your corruption bleed through the whole system and you don't have to worry about it while you get fat off the people's offerings? It's not going to be like that. In fact, listen to this. Therefore, the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, I promised that your house and your father's house. So let's take the line down through the descendants of Eli. Let's take the line up through the descendants of, or through the ascendants. I don't know what you call them. The people before Eli, right? Your father's house would minister before me forever. I did make that promise, but now the Lord declares, far be it from me, those who honor me, those who honor me I will honor, but those who despise me will be disdained. Hey, guess what? I still require obedience, humble obedience. And if you're not going to give it to me, you're going to be replaced. That's basically what God is telling Eli. The time is coming when I will cut short your strength and the strength of your father's house, so that there will not be an old man in your family line. Wow, your sin has brought me to a place of eliminating your line, and you will see distress in my dwelling. Although good will be done to Israel in your family line, there will never be an old man. Every one of you that I do not cut off from my altar will be spared, only to blind your eyes with tears and to grieve your heart, and all your descendants will die in the prime of life. Wow, God is telling them directly, the game's over. You might have thought you were getting over on something, but I'm not going to tolerate it. And what happens to your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, will be assigned to you. What's going to happen to them? Well, they'll both die on the same day. Your sons are going to be eliminated, all right? I will raise up for myself a faithful priest, all right? Now remember, we've been watching Samuel grow in the priesthood here in Shiloh under the supervision of Eli, who will do according to what is in my heart and mind. I will firmly establish his house, and he will minister before my anointed one. Who's that? Most scholarship appointed Jesus right here, the anointed one, the Messiah. He will minister before my anointed one always. Okay, so Eli, you're out, and your sons are going to die. Then everyone left in your family line will come and bow down before him for a piece of silver and a crust of bread. In other words, instead of this opulent lifestyle that you've adopted off the backs of the people who want to worship, you're going to be reduced. Oh, Eli, you and your sons, you're going to be gone. But your whole line is going to be reduced to begging for bread, to needing money. They're going to plead. They'll come down and they'll be bowing before the priestly line that I've chosen. They'll plead, appoint me to some priestly office so I can have food to eat. Yeah, your status as a Levite. Well, it reminds me of what Hannah just prayed. Do you remember earlier in this chapter? The Lord brings death and he makes alive. He brings down to the grave and he raises up. The Lord sends poverty and wealth. He humbles and he exalts. I'm wondering sometimes whether Hannah's prayer is anticipating what God is doing in his judgment against Eli's house, or if Hannah had already seen some of this occur when this prayer was prayed. I'm not sure, but it certainly is stated clearly, illustrated, I should say, in the lives of Eli and his sons, that God judges. And if he decides you're going to die, there's no help to be found. You're going to die. If he decides his judgment is to wipe out your line in the priesthood, there's nothing to be done. I mean, just look at the things that have happened. We'll have to move a little forward in history of Israel to see this, but in chapter 4, a little bit, we'll get there next week, I think, his sons will die on the same day. In chapter 4, again, Eli dies, and he dies so disgracefully. He falls off his chair. He's so fat that when he falls off his chair, he breaks his neck, and he dies. All right, Phinehas, that's one of his sons, right? He has a wife, and she's giving birth, but she dies while she's giving birth, and she names her son before she dies. She names him Ichabod. And Ichabod means the glory has departed. The presence of God, the power of God, the move of God among us has left. Imagine being named Ichabod from birth. We see that the line of Eli suffers throughout Israel's history. Saul, the first king, massacres the priests at Nob in 1 Samuel 22, kills them all except for one guy named Abiathar. He survives. He becomes the priest to David, but he backs Adonijah when there's a shift in power from David to Solomon. He backs the wrong king. Solomon removes him in 1 Kings 2, and then the priesthood gets transferred to Zadok's line, not Eli's line. It gets moved so that what God says in 1 Samuel 2 happens in history later down the line. Eli descends from Ithamar, and that line in terms of the priesthood is eliminated. Instead, Zadok, still an authentic priest, he descends from the line of Eleazar, and the priesthood shifts into his hands as time passes. Does God judge sin? Yes. If you're a corrupt religious leader, should you fear for your life? Absolutely. Although so many just keep going like nothing's ever going to happen. God's paying complete attention, and he will eliminate those he determines have gone too far. Just keep it in mind as you make your choices today, church. God bless you. Serve him well.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus,